Welcome to The Explainer. You ever stop and think, why does my morning coffee cost exactly what it does? Or how come last year's phone is suddenly way cheaper? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible forces that set the price for, well, pretty much everything. See that price tag? It's not just some random number somebody pulled out of a hat. Nope. It's the result of this constant, predictable economic dance. Or, you know what? Maybe battle is a better word for it. Because in any market, for pretty much any product you can think of, you've got two sides, and they are pulling in completely opposite directions. The outcome of that constant struggle, that tug of war, that's what we call the price. So who exactly are the two teams in this big economic tug of war? Let's break it down and meet the two fundamental forces that make every market tick. All right, on one side of the rope, you've got us, the buyers. And what do we want? Simple, the best possible deal, the absolute lowest price we can get. But on the other side, you've got the sellers, and they want the exact opposite, the highest possible price. It's a classic fundamental conflict of interest. Okay, so let's start on our side of the rope, the buyer's rule. This is something we all get, intuitively. You don't need an economics degree for this one. But economists, they have a name for it. They call it demand. I mean, just think about it. If your favorite pizza spot suddenly has a half-price sale, what are you going to do? You're probably way more likely to grab a second one, right? But if they doubled their prices tomorrow, yeah, you might just decide to stay home. That really simple idea, that inverse relationship, is the absolute heart of the law of demand. So we can actually map this whole behavior out in something called a demand schedule. Take a look at this chart. If this thing were totally free, the market would snap up 120 of them. But look what happens as the price starts to climb. At, say, $8, people only want 40. And if it hits $12, forget about it. Demand just completely vanishes. And if we take all those points from the schedule and plot them on a graph, well, we get this, the demand curve. See that steady downward slope? That's the visual signature of the law of demand. It's a picture that says, as price goes down, the quantity people want to buy goes up. All right, so that's the buyer's side of the story. Now let's hop over to the other end of the rope and check out the seller's rule. And this one is all about supply. Now for sellers, the logic is completely 100% flipped on its head. The higher the price, the more they want to sell. And why is that? It's simple, really. Higher prices mean bigger profits, and that gives them every single reason in the world to make and sell more stuff. And you guessed it, just like with demand, we can chart this out in a supply schedule. Look here, at a price of 0, sellers aren't going to supply a single thing. I mean, why would they? It's just not worth their time. But watch what happens as that price starts to climb. At $12, they're putting 60 units on the table. At $20, they are ready to flood the market with 100. And when you graph that schedule, you get the supply curve. It's almost a perfect mirror image of the demand curve, isn't it? This upward slope, it's a perfect picture of what motivates a seller. More money means more product. Simple as that. Okay, so we've got the buyers with their downward sloping rule and the sellers with their upward sloping rule. Two opposite forces. So what happens when we finally put them on the same page? Literally. This right here, this slide just captures the essence of the market so perfectly. You've got the buyers, this huge collective force all trying to pull prices down. And on the other side, you've got the sellers, pushing with all their might to drive them up. It's incredible when you think about it. Our entire economy exists in this beautiful, kind of chaotic balance between these two opposing forces. Okay, so these curves and rules, they aren't just abstract ideas. We can actually describe them with some surprisingly simple math. And hey, don't worry, it's way easier than it looks, I promise. Hey, remember that first table we looked at, the demand schedule? Well, this equation right here is just a shorthand way of saying the exact same thing. It is the entire buyer's rule, all packed into one tidy little formula. So what's it telling us? It's saying we start with this maximum possible demand of 120 units if it were free. And then for every single dollar the price, which is P, goes up, the quantity demanded, or QD, drops by 10. That little minus sign right there? That's the key. That's the entire law of demand summed up in one tiny symbol. All right, now for the supply equation. It looks even simpler, right? But take a close look. Can you spot the most important difference? There's no minus sign. That implied plus sign tells you everything you need to know. It shows that for every dollar the price P goes up, sellers are willing to supply 5 more units. It's the perfect representation of that direct relationship at the very heart of the law of supply. Okay, so this all seems pretty straightforward, right? Down for demand, up for supply. But what happens when we look at the real world and see things that seem to completely break these fundamental rules? I mean, take this example with mobile phones. From 2005 to 2025, the price of phones actually went up, but people bought more of them. What? That seems to fly directly in the face of everything we've just talked about. So how on earth is that possible? Did the law of demand just break?
Well, the answer isn't that the law is wrong. Not at all. It's that the law comes with some really critical fine print. It's a Latin phrase, ceteris paribus, and it basically means all other things being held constant. And let's be real. In the real world, are other things ever held constant? Almost never.
So you see, the law itself wasn't broken. What happened was that the entire game changed around it. Over those 20 years, so many other things were not constant. People's incomes went up, the population grew, and most importantly, phones went from being a cool luxury to an absolute necessity. All these huge outside factors completely shifted the context. The basic rule still holds true. You just have to remember it operates inside a world that's always changing. So here we are. We've got the buyers pulling for low prices. We've got the sellers pushing for high prices. Two powerful opposing forces on a collision course. But what happens when they finally meet? What happens at that one single point where they cross? Well, that is where the magic happens. That's where the price is set. And we're going to dive into exactly how that works in our next explainer.